perfectionism? Do you suffer from it? Are you like trying to make sure everything is immaculately perfect in either your dancing or your life before you release it to the world? Perhaps you struggle with what other people think of you, so you don't really step out and act with courage and bravery and really go for your biggest dreams, desires, and aspirations. Well, perfectionism is something that affects a lot of people. It's actually, you might say, I'm a self-proclaimed perfectionist. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress. Being perfect is the enemy of good enough. And then today we're going to talk about exactly what you can do to overcome it. So stay with me, because I think it's going to be one of the most profound lessons for you to help you with your dancing and also in your life. Because it's really fascinating to me as a coach, right? I find it fascinating because people come into dancing and there's this paradox going on. Dancing seems to attract those who are highly perfectionism driven. Yet we live in a dancing society and world where when you go on the floor, nothing is perfect and nothing can ever be perfect. Yet that perfectionism drives the motivation to train. You see, if you don't have that, you're not going to want to really get better. So that's one of the things to reframe. Is it's not necessarily a negative thing, but you might see in the bottom corner here a picture of a little bowl. Let this little bowl reflect you, who you are, the inner you. And the bowl itself, this is called the art of Wabi. It's a Japanese art form where a broken bowl has been mended together with gold. And that is the beauty of it. The perfection is in the imperfection. It isn't in the actual bowl. In fact, the bowl looks more beautiful now than it did previously, right? So let that resemble the cracks in our soul. Let that resemble the cracks in our dancing. Let that resemble the mistakes and the failures of the past and the things that we tried to give a go and it didn't work. And that's okay, right? Because it is the perfection that is in the imperfection. So if you're feeling that, let me know. Give me a little like, give me a little share. Tell someone you care about that this is even existing, because it'd be awesome to have this go out to the greater world around me. So let's deal with it like this. First of all, let's understand perfection on a different level. There's 3 types of perfectionism that you can sort of class yourself within. The first is self-orientated. You know, you stick your hand up. Yep, that's me. It's an irrational desire to be perfect. It's irrational. It's like everything must be right before I do it. The second one is others prescribed, others orientated perfectionism. So that is an unrealistic expectation on other people to be perfect, to be on the mark. You might feel this in the workplace, you know. For me, I know it used to stress me out a lot because I would have high expectations of some people and they'd let me down constantly. Till I found out that you got to flip the expectations for standards, right? Have higher standards for people. That's a different thing to having expectations where people constantly let you down. The third type is a perceived or socially orientated perfectionism. What does that mean? It means that you have an overwhelming feeling and thought process that the society you live in demands perfection from you. Now that's really important in dancing, and in ballroom dancing in particular, right? Because we're in a space where it's like constant judgment. It's like, oh my God, everyone's judging me. What are they going to think of me? What's going to happen if I make a mistake? Here's the good news. You ready? Come on in. Come on in for this one. Are you ready for this? The judges don't see as much as you think. The coaches miss a lot. Most people won't see the mistakes you make. It's true. It's like you ask adjudicators, like, do you remember the mistakes that person made? They go, no, not at all. So this socially prescribed notion, like, and the self-orientated one, are your enemies to your progress, okay? So there are 5 things we're going to talk about right now that you can do to change that. And let me know where you stand on this line, if you've managed to let go of being perfect all the time, and if you're a perfectionist by definition, so to speak. Because you can change it, and you're going to need to change it, but we don't need to, we want to keep one attribute from that, and that is the desire and the pursuit of perfection, the Wabi type idea, right? Where you're going to break, but you mend yourself back together with gold. All right, first thing to do, you must give death to the old identity that everything must be perfect. This is something that I do on a constant basis. I'm reminding myself of this one. You have to reinvent yourself. You reinvent yourself by creating a new self-image. A self-image is the image you hold of yourself in relationship to the world. Okay, so you might say, but Vaughn, you don't understand me. I am a perfectionist. It's like, that is you giving a self-defining definition of who you are. It's not who you are, it's who you create an identity around. You can change that, okay? You weren't born a perfectionist. Now, there are personality traits that may be more neurotic driven. So neuroticism and anxieties and those sorts of things are not what we're talking about. We're talking about perfectionism, which is linked to procrastination. But the idea is that you reinvent you. You create a new identity. Now, I'll show you these other 4 steps. I'll show you what that means really in a tangible sense. It's not just a metaphor, right? But the reinvention of yourself is key. You'd no longer see yourself as a perfectionist. And it's okay that things are not just black and white. You know, it's either really good or it's just not good at all. There is a middle part in there. That's up to our perception. The second one, release control. Oh my God, I said it. I said it to a bunch of perfectionists. Release control. Release it. Now, the word control is a funny thing. You don't really control anything. And that's one of the things that perfectionism drives. It's like, I'm in control. No, you're not. You're not in control. I'm not in control. Like, at any moment, my lights can go out, the camera can go off, the sound can go off. Like, anything can happen, right? I'm not in control of that. That's why we set up our environment, our house a certain way. That is the one thing I think we have our feeling of control over. It's like, at least if I take this chair and I perfectly align it there, perfect. I'm in control, right? That's not the case. You don't know if a wind will come along and take that chair out, or something will knock your house down, or some little kid will come in and knock your chair out of place, and that will frustrate you, right? But the point is that you've got to release that control. You can't control other people. There's so little you can control. I think really the only things we can control are our own perceptions and our attitudes towards life. And in that, we then reflect back to the world our quality, our state, how we do life, how we show up, and the things we actually achieve and do. Everything else is really out. What we do have is choice, right? Choice what to do, a choice where to be, a choice how to train, a choice how to act in the moment, a choice of how to turn up and show up constantly. And that's one of the keys, right? Now, if we do this third one, so we've got first one, second one, the third one is releasing your work. Did I just say work? Oh, I'm so sorry to offend anyone. Yes, that's right. Work. You know that thing called work? Commitment, consistency, the thing you do to get paid. If you're a dancer, and I mean, if you're a proper dancer, like a dancer who's doing it to not only pursue getting better and to get better, but a dancer who is forward thinking, who has goals, dreams, and desires to do, you're in the studio training every day. That's it. You're an artist, right? An artist paints every day. You're not training once a week. That's a hobby. If you're a true dancer, you're training all the time. You can't stop dancing, right? Like you don't even consider it anything else. That's what you do. But if you're at the beginning level of dancing, you're frightened with fear. You're overwhelmed with doubt and limitation and limiting beliefs, and that's pretty normal. And we fight those all the way through our dancing career. The point is that we've got to release our work. Nothing can be perfected until you release it. Hear that again. Nothing, not a thing can be perfected until you release it to the world. Not a thing. So stop bitching and whining and complaining that it's not perfect and go and do it. Let it go. Once it is sent out into the world, you can get something called feedback. And the feedback allows you to then recreate, reinvent yourself, reinvent the work, and do it again. Do you see how it works? But nothing can be perfected until it's released by definition, okay? So perfectionism is just a giant lie to begin with. So that's how artists work. That's how writers work. And it's our sort of creative battle. It's like, when is it ready to release? Honestly, now, right now, get on the comp floor, go onto the comp floor. I can't tell you how many competitors I have who are so scared. Oh, I'm not going to compete yet. Fear. Oh, I'm not ready to dance. Fear. Oh, I don't have money. Fear, right? Like, it's all bullshit. It's all excuses. You can go and do what you need to do. You're just scared of not looking good and looking right. Most people are not going to watch you anyway, so don't worry about it, okay? Those who do watch you are going to forget the shit you do anyway, so who cares? You're doing it for yourself. And stop trying to think that it needs to be perfect, because it doesn't exist. I've talked to the best dancers in the world, the champions of the back in the day, the champions of today, the top professionals, right? The number ones in the world. And I've asked them, like, what are you doing this for? Because we pursue perfection. That's what drives us. We pursue it. Nobody's perfect. You might catch Ricardo dancing with a bent leg when you were told to have a straight leg. You might find Yulia, no foot pressure. Oh my God, her foot wasn't on the floor during that step. Perfection doesn't exist. Okay, so number 4, compare fairly. Who are you comparing yourself against? This is a big problem in dancing. Are you comparing yourself against other people who are younger than you, more skilled than you, or maybe they're older than you and they're just further ahead, right? Like, who are you comparing yourself against? And then you're judging against that to then go, I'm not at that level, so therefore I can't release my work because I'm not perfect enough. You see how you start to screw your own progress, right? Because it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Progressing to the next stage of development for yourself, whatever that looks like, okay? It's one of the reasons we need goals. Now, comparing fairly matters. You cannot compare yourself to a world champion. You cannot compare yourself to a professional unless you are a professional, because they've paid the price to be there. So it's unrealistic to go, damn, I'm not as good as that Slavic character. I'm not as good as Mirko. Oh my God. Well, I must just suck. I better quit. No, you just had your first lesson, or you just had your first mental test. Relax, right? All champions were beginners at one point. So this is why comparing matters. Now, here's the real secret. Who are you comparing yourself against? Yesterday's self. Say it with me now. Yesterday's self. That's who you compare yourself. Because over the course of lifetime, imagine this. There's you today, there's you of tomorrow, the you in 5 years. There was the you of yesterday, the you of yesteryear, and the yester 5 years, right? So you were different 5 years ago, a year ago, even a day ago. You just don't realize it. Now you'll be different tomorrow, and 5 years, and 10 years. That is a string of yourself over the course of a lifetime. Consider yourself a community unto yourself. All right. So if you're a community unto yourself, you are comparing yourself against the version you used to be versus your future self and potential, who you want to be. I can't stress how important that is. Are you living up to what's possible? Are you living up to what is within you? Because that is the competition, not the guy next to you on the competition floor. Although that's easy to think because most people see with their eyes and they think that's the world. Unfortunately, the world is an inner world reflecting back out to us, right? So we actually don't see with our eyes, we see with our brain. We see with cells of recognition, okay? We see shapes. So you might look at me and see a watch. You don't see a watch. You see shapes that tell your brain when these sort of components and everything's in an alignment perfectly together that it's a watch. And it ticks, so it must be a watch. No. We see by shape. So what you see is deceiving to begin with. We see with an inner eye of understanding. That's where we're going to start to crush this perfectionism myth, lie, and it's utterly devoiding you of reaching your potential. The last one, number 5. Are you ready? Number 5, the big one. You are going to create instead of compete. Okay? Create instead of compete. Instead of getting on a dance floor to beat someone's ass or whatever, we already know we're creating and competing against yesterday's self, but we're going to be creators, not competitors. No one can touch creativity. Nobody can copy innovation, right? So this is one of the reasons why companies lead the way, say in the tech industry, like good luck copying Apple, because not only, you're only seeing what they've got released to the market now because they've released the imperfect product, right? Microsoft built $1 billion organization off imperfection, right? So what happens is you got to let it go, you got to get it out there, but you got to create. Reform, reinvent yourself, and you'll transform who you are for tomorrow. And then in 5 years, it's stunning how different you will actually be and act. This is Vaughn. I want to thank you for tuning in today. Give me a like, give me a share, give me a shout out, and I hope to see you as we master the art of ballroom dancing together.